What if I told you that one of the most important companies on the entire planet, a company that's a foundational pillar for our modern world, is one you've probably never even heard of?
You know, when we think of the big dogs in tech, a few names always pop up, right? You got Apple, you got Nvidia, Microsoft, the usual suspects. But what if the company that makes all of their work possible is actually flying completely under the radar?
Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on this hidden giant. This is the story of the most critical player in the entire global tech ecosystem that you might not know exists. And here it is. The company's name is ASML. They're based in a little town in the Netherlands called Veldhoven. They've been around since 1984, and they have, very quietly, become the absolute linchpin of the entire semiconductor industry.
Just think about that for a second. A secret pillar. It's the perfect way to describe them. Seriously, without the technology that ASML creates, the super advanced chips that power our phones, our computers, our data centers, the entire AI revolution, none of it could be made. The biggest names in tech are completely, and I mean completely, dependent on them.
So what is it that ASML actually does? What's the big problem they solve that makes them so crucial? Well, it all boils down to this relentless mission to make computer chips smaller and more powerful, year after year. A mission that is now literally pushing the boundaries of physics. The magic here is a process called lithography. Now that sounds complicated, but at its heart, you can think of it like a kind of printing. But instead of printing ink on paper, these incredible machines print impossibly tiny and complex circuit patterns onto slices of pure silicon. It's how every single modern computer chip is born. Okay, let's make that even simpler. Imagine you've designed this massive, intricate blueprint. Now you use a projector to shrink that blueprint down and focus it onto a space smaller than your fingernail. And then you permanently etch that tiny projected design onto your material. That's lithography in a nutshell, just on a scale that is almost impossible to wrap your head around. And this is where we get to the real challenge. The little lines and switches on these chips are now measured in nanometers. How small is a nanometer? Well, a single human hair is about 80,000 nanometers wide. We are talking about manufacturing things at a scale where a single speck of dust is like a giant boulder crashing down and ruining everything. It's an absolutely insane engineering problem. So how in the world did ASML solve a problem that seemed to defy physics? Well, they didn't just make a better version of the old technology. No, they invented something from a science fiction movie, a machine that many experts said could never, ever be built. The solution, the big breakthrough, is called extreme ultraviolet lithography, or just EUV. See, to print smaller things, you need light with a shorter wavelength. And EUV light has a wavelength so incredibly short that it gets absorbed by pretty much everything, including air. So just building a machine that can create and control this light is a monumental achievement. So what does one of these impossible machines cost? Let's start with the price tag. A single EUV machine costs more than $200 million. Let that sink in for a second. For the price of one machine, you could buy a brand new Boeing 787 Dreamliner. It is one of the most expensive tools ever made by humankind. And then there's the size. We're talking about a machine that weighs over 180 tons. That's like parking 30 adult elephants in a clean room. They have to be shipped on multiple jumbo jets, and it takes a huge team months just to put one together. And the complexity, it's just staggering. Over 100,000 parts go into one of these things. It includes mirrors that are so perfectly polished that if you blew one up to the size of Germany, the biggest imperfection on it would be less than a millimeter high. Just wow. And here is the absolute knockout punch. After all that work, after decades of research and billions of dollars in investment, ASML is the only company in the world that can actually build these things. They don't just have a lead, they have an absolute monopoly on the single most important piece of technology for the future of computing. So you have to ask, how did they do it? How did this one company from the Netherlands build such an unbreakably dominant position on a technology this important? Well, it was no accident. It was the result of a brilliant, decades-long strategy. So what's the secret sauce? Well, it's a few things. First, just decades of pouring money into research and development. They also built these incredibly deep partnerships with the only other companies that could make the components they needed, like the German optics company Zeiss for those insane mirrors. The result is that the barrier to entry is now so high, no one can catch up. Just trying to replicate their global supply chain would take you 20 years. And this is what really makes ASML different from a company like Apple. Apple sells products to you and me. They have to chase trends. ASML, they don't care about trends. They operate at the infrastructure level. Their business is tied to the laws of physics, and what they sell is a strategic utility that the entire industry is built on top of. And on top of everything, their business model's just genius. Step 1, sell the machine for that crazy $200 million price. But it doesn't stop there. Step 2, you lock your customer into long-term service contracts. And step 3, you keep them paying for essential software upgrades. It's not a one-time purchase. It's a long-term, dependent relationship.
The result is this incredibly predictable stream of cash for ASML. And for their customers, we're talking giants like Intel or TSMC. Once you've spent billions building a factory around these machines, switching to a competitor, even if one existed, is basically impossible. You are totally locked in.
So let's zoom out. What does this all mean for the future? Well, if ASML holds the only keys to making the most advanced chips, then in a very real way, they are the gatekeepers to our technological future.
So who are these customers? Who needs ASML? Basically, everyone that matters. Every single advanced chip maker on the planet, TSMC in Taiwan, Samsung in South Korea, Intel in the US, all of them. This means the entire geopolitical chess match over advanced technology runs straight through that one small town in the Netherlands.
I love this analogy that people use. They say ASML owns the toll booth on the highway to the future. Think about it. All the traffic, all the companies racing to build the next big thing in AI or cloud computing or whatever, they all have to pass through this one single choke point. And ASML is sitting right there, collecting the toll from every single car on the road.
And that's really the heart of it all. Most tech companies are reactive. They're trying to figure out what we'll want next year. ASML is on a totally different level. They're not chasing the future. They are building the fundamental tools that allow the future to be created in the first place. Which really brings us to a final, really big question. We have this one company that is the sole source for the machines that will build the future of AI, of computing, of everything. That gives them an incredible amount of power. So you have to wonder, what happens when one company, no matter how amazing, holds all the keys to the kingdom?